This video we're going to talk about Aerys II, also known as the Mad King. This is the first of 4 videos. The parts are broken down into Empty Ambitions, Duskendale, Madness in the False Spring, and then finally, Robert's Rebellion. After the last Aerys II video, I'm going to release an extra shortened version of Aerys II for people that hate long videos or multiple parts. This shortened version will be very condensed. Aerys II came to the throne in 262 AC after his father, Jaehaerys II, passed away after only 3 short years of rule. Aerys II was 18, handsome, and incredibly charming, but he was also proud, vain, changeable, and not the most intelligent man. He was married to his sister Rala at his father's command, and their firstborn child, a boy named Rhaegar, was born next to the flames of Summerhall during the tragedy of Summerhall. Aerys II would be the last Targaryen king of Westeros, so far, and with his reign he ended the almost 300 years of Targaryen rule. Little did Aerys II know, but 2 of the individuals that would spell his house's doom were born the year he was crowned: Robert Baratheon, born in Storm's End, and Brandon Stark in Winterfell. And within a year, Eddard Stark, a man also vital in the end of Targaryen rule, would be born as well. Aerys II's first order as king was to dismiss all the men that made up his father's court, most of whom were old, wise, and served Aegon V, Aerys II's grandfather. He replaced these men with lords of his own age and made Tywin Lannister, only 20 years old at the time, his new Hand of the King. He would be the youngest Hand of the King in Westeros history, and one of the greatest. So let's take a mini break and talk about Tywin Lannister for a moment. Tywin was partially selected by Aerys II due to them being childhood friends. Tywin had been sent to King's Landing to serve as a royal cupbearer for King Aegon V's court, and there he met Prince Aerys II and Steffon Baratheon. The 3 boys later fought in the Ninepenny War together. Tywin had been a knight during the war, and Steffon and Aerys II squires. The 3 became even more inseparable during the war, and Tywin even knighted Aerys II afterwards. So there's a lot of history with Aerys II and Tywin that helped with his appointment to be Hand. But Tywin was also picked for his ruthlessness and prowess as a leader, especially in dealing with the Tarbeck Rebellion. Despite being childhood friends, Tywin produced mixed reviews from the other nobles. Tywin had a cold, stern, cruel nature, and his brutality in handling the Tarbeck Rebellion produced some scorn. But despite that, Tywin was one of the greatest hands, and appointing him was one of the best things Aerys II ever did. Under Tywin's stewardship, the realm would see almost 20 years of prosperity and peace. Aerys II, on the other hand, didn't have the best qualities to rule. In the beginning, Aerys II loved dancing, music, balls, and young women. His courts were even filled with beautiful women from all over the realm, but unlike Aegon the Unworthy, Aerys II became bored of his mistresses quickly, many lasting less than 2 weeks, and a few ever long as half a year. In the beginning of his rule, Aerys II declared he would be the greatest king in history, and some entertained him in that thought. And Aerys II really had an excess of empty ambitions. In 264 AC, when Rickard Stark of Winterfell visited King's Landing, Aerys II decided that he was going to build a new wall 100 leagues north of the existing one, and then claim all the lands between. In 265 AC, Aerys II claimed he was going to build a white city entirely of marble on the south bank of the Blackwater Rush. In 267 AC, when the Iron Bank of Braavos came to collect money borrowed by Aerys II's father, Jaehaerys II, Aerys II announced he was going to build the world's largest fleet and bring the Titan to his knees. In 270 AC, he visited Sunspear and told the Princess of Dorne he would make the Dornish deserts bloom by digging a great underground canal beneath the mountains to bring water down from the Rainwood. Despite all these grand schemes, not a single one was ever finished. Aerys II was as fickle with his women as he was with his grand plans, and many were forgotten as quickly as they were imagined. And this fickle, changeable mood and behavior may have been concerning to some, especially as the behavior started to become more erratic, if Aerys II hadn't appointed Tywin as his hand. Tywin was stern, just, intelligent, tireless, and decisive. Under him, the 7 kingdoms prospered. As Aerys II became more moody, Tywin began to take over more of the day-to-day running of the kingdom. Tywin even settled the crown's debt with the Iron Bank by repaying the money lent to Jaehaerys II with gold from Casterly Rock, therefore Tywin taking the debt onto himself. And despite the lords being a bit uneasy with how Tywin handled the Tarbeck Rebellion, When Tywin repealed many laws Aegon V had enacted to take away Lord's power, and also reduced taxes and tariffs on shipping out and in of King's Landing, Lannisport, and Old Town, many lords and merchants celebrated Tywin. Tywin also built new roads, repaired old ones, held tournaments around the realm, increased trade with the free cities, and even began to regulate meat quality. But for as many lords and merchants that loved him, there were those that were jealous of Tywin and accused him of being a humorless, unforgiving, proud, and cruel man. And poor Tywin had a lot of loyal men, especially his bannermen, but he didn't really have friends. And his relationship with his father and brother, save Kevin, was pretty stormy. Tywin's coldness only disappeared around his wife, his cousin Joanna, who he had married a year after becoming the king's hand. And he really loved Joanna, and she was said to be the only one that could make him smile. But for all the happiness Tywin had with his wife, Aerys II didn't have with his. Rhaella and Aerys II never really liked each other, and the marriage was not their idea. Jaehaerys II, their father, mostly married them due to a prophecy told by a woods witch that he interpreted that the prince that was promised would be born from the bloodline of Aerys II and Rhaella. And the tension between Rhaella and Aerys II grew as Aerys II started to take more mistresses. She tried to turn a blind eye to Aerys II's mistresses, but she began to dismiss many ladies from her service, claiming she hated his turning her ladies into his whores. The relationship between Rhaella and Aerys II became more strained, with Rhaella's inability to give Aerys II any more children. Since they were married so young, many thought Rhaegar was the first of many children. But providing extra children was a struggle for Rhaella. She had miscarriages in 263 and 264 AC, then a stillborn daughter in 267 AC. In 269 AC, she had a boy named Darren, who only survived half a year. In 270, there was another stillbirth, a miscarriage in 271, and in 272, Prince Aegon was born, but died in 273 AC from being born 2 months premature. And you can imagine what all these stillbirths and miscarriages did to Rhaella, or any woman in general, but it also began to twist Aerys II. Each miscarriage and stillbirth drove him a little further to Crazy Land, and when Tywin's wife Joanna gave birth to twins in 266 AC at Casterly Rock, tension began to form between Tywin and Aerys II. In 267 AC, Tywin's father, Tytos, died, making Tywin Warden of the West. When Tywin went home to attend his father's funeral, Aerys II accompanied him and took more than half his court and his 8-year-old son Rhaegar. For about a year, Aerys II and Tywin ruled from Lannisport and Casterly Rock. In 268 AC, they relocated back to King's Landing, but it was clear the friendship between Aerys II and Tywin was becoming undone. And really, the miscarriages and stillbirth caused the beginning of his twisted mistrust to start taking root, and Tywin ended up having his own kids, and how well he was ruling started to just twist it more and more. And after coming back from Lannisport and Casterly Rock and back to King's Landing in 268 AC, Aerys II, who had usually taken Tywin's advice and side in matters, had now started to disagree with him. Aerys II also began to mistrust his wife, and in 270 AC, he claimed Rhaella was being unfaithful. Aerys II confined her to Maegor's holdfast and had 2 septas sleep with her every night to make sure that she was being faithful to him. As time went on, Aerys II even began to mistrust others, and Tywin more and more as time went on. Aerys II began to disagree with Tywin on many points, often overturning Tywin's decision or action. Aerys II also began to do things despite Tywin urging him otherwise, and when it had negative results, Aerys II would then blame Tywin for it. A great example is when Aerys II doubled port fees at King's Landing and Old Town, and tripled them for Lannisport and all the other realms' ports and harbors, despite Tywin's great protest. When small lords and rich merchants came to the throne to complain, Aerys II claimed Tywin had done it, not him, and Aerys II was praised when he restored tariff and port fees to their original levels, which, as you can imagine, probably pissed off Tywin. Further strife between the men occurred when Aerys II began to mistrust the men Tywin suggested for titles and offices, and claim that they were the Hand's men. So Aerys II began to give offices and honors to his own favorites, but being the king's favorite was risky since Aerys II mistrusted easily, and you could just as quickly be in his favor and have those honors taken away if he suspected you for anything, no matter how irrational. At this time, Aerys II also became aware that people said Tywin ruled while Aerys II was just a powerless figurehead. Aerys II became determined to humble Tywin, his servant, and put him in his place. And did he ever try? A tournament was held in 272 AC to celebrate Aerys II's 10th year as king. Joanna brought her 6-year-old twins, Cersei and Jaime, to court to present them. The king, upon seeing her, asked if her breastfeeding had ruined her breasts, which were so high and proud. Lord Tywin's rivals laughed. Joanna was mortified, and Tywin furious. The next morning, Tywin tried to resign his hand, but Aerys II refused him, most likely keeping Tywin close to keep an eye on him. After this incident, people began to use Tywin for advancement. People would often mock Tywin or try to slight him in order to get favor with the king, which often worked. And poor Tywin, he took all of this like a champ, never complaining, never lashing out, save trying to resign that one time, and continued ruling the realm the best he could. In 273 AC, Joanna died in childbirth at Casterly Rock when giving birth to Tyrion, a malformed dwarf. With Tywin's beloved wife newly dead, Aerys II decided this was the perfect time to mock Tywin and said, "The gods cannot abide such ignorance. They have plucked a fair flower from his hand and given him a monster in her place, to teach him some humility at last." And these words reached Tywin as he grieved at Casterly Rock. And from there on out, there was no longer any love between the two men. But Tywin did return to King's Landing and continued as the hand of the king as if nothing had happened. Aerys II, on the other hand, became even more erratic, mistrusting, and violent. He began to pay money to men who would tell Aerys II of whispers, lies, and treason, both real and imagined. This madness did get a tad better in 274 AC when Rhaella gave birth to a son, Prince Jaehaerys, and for a while Aerys II became almost like his old self, until the baby died that year. Aerys II claimed the baby's wet nurse had poisoned the baby and had her beheaded. Then, Aerys II claimed it was actually his mistress who had poisoned the baby and had her and all her kin tortured to death. They all confessed to the murder during the torture, but their confessions can't really be trusted. After this incident, Aerys II fasted for 2 weeks and made a walk of repentance across the city to the Great Sept and prayed with the High Septon. Aerys II claimed he would only sleep with his lawful wife from here on out, and stopped sleeping with his mistresses from that day in 275 AC onward. The following year, Rhaella gave birth to a boy, Prince Viserys, in 276 AC. Even though their eldest son Rhaegar was 17, the realm rejoiced he now had another brother and another child to secure the line. Aerys II became even more fearful and paranoid with the birth of his son Viserys. He commanded the Kingsguard's knights to stand over him night and day to make sure no one touched the boy, and he even forbade Rhaella from being alone with the infant. At one point, when Rhaella could no longer breastfeed, he had his food taster suck on the prince's wet nurse to make sure there was no poison. Tywin, on the other hand, held a huge tournament at Lannisport to celebrate Aerys II's newborn child, Viserys. Aerys II attended, but he refused to allow his wife or their newborn baby to come. At the tournament, Aerys II's own newly knighted son Rhaegar competed and unhorsed many knights, including the legendary Sir Barristan Selmy. But in the end, Rhaegar ended up losing to the Kingsguard knight, Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning. At this tournament, Tywin decided to approach Aerys II about Cersei marrying Rhaegar. Aerys II rejected this offer, telling Tywin he was a good and valuable servant, but still just a servant. Aerys II also refused to appoint Jaime as a squire to Rhaegar, and gave that honor to a man that was no friend to Tywin or House Lannister. Following the tournament, Lord Darkland of Duskendale, an ancient harbor town, wanted to win a charter to have some autonomy from the crown, much like Dorne had done. Duskendale's trade had begun to dwindle as trade at King's Landing grew, and Lord Darkland wished to halt this. And some say his Myrish wife, Lady Sarala, pardoned this with her pillow talk, but it can't be confirmed. Tywin rejected the charter, fearing if he gave one lord this privilege, others would demand the same. Furious, made his own plans to lower port fees and tariffs so that he could compete with King's Landing. Lord Darkland, aware of Aerys II's growing crazy behavior and seeing the tension between Aerys II and the Hand, refused to pay taxes and offered for the king to come to Duskendale to hear his petition. Tywin advised Aerys II not to go, and that it was definitely a trap. So, of course, Aerys II traveled to Duskendale with a small escort to settle the matter himself. And next week we'll talk about the Defiance of Duskendale. Make sure you come back next Sunday when we talk about the Defiance of Duskendale. Otherwise, come back this Wednesday when we talk about whether Tywin's children are really his.